So I put up a video recently titled 13 Things to Know About Quartzsite, Arizona. And one of the topics I talked about was the conditions of the ground here. If you've never been here before or to this area, you might be surprised. I was surprised because when I first came down here 7 winters ago, I always thought of the desert as being sandy. And there are small areas around here that are sandy. There's a little bit over around Dome Rock here in Quartzsite. You get down to like Yuma and head over into California from there. It's pretty sandy down there by comparison. And then you guys get into the sand dunes. But here around Quartzsite, Ehrenberg, Parker, it's pretty rocky. And so that's just something interesting to know, of course. But it's also pertinent because here around Quartzsite in particular, there's a lot of broken rocks that are very sharp. Or oddly formed rocks that are very sharp. I'm not sure what all the geology is about there. So anyways, you got the ground here as a combination of rocks and that are often sharp and sand. And what happens is the sand, of course, gets blown away in the wind or washed away when it rains, and you end up with this layer of mostly rock everywhere. So one of the things there was some conversation about was I try and find places to camp where it's not like that. Now you can't avoid it. If you look behind me, it's all, that's all like that. That's the way it is. But sometimes you can find something that's a little better for your actual camp site. So if you're going for a walk, you're going to be dealing with this stuff, like I was showing you in the previous video. That's just what most of the ground is here. And you may have to drive over this stuff to get to your campsite. So I can show you here, like by the van where it's parked, the ground is just nasty rocky. It's hard to walk around on. It's easy to stumble and stuff. And, facing away from here, you see it's just more of the same. But, like I said, you can find these little patches where it's better. And that's what I think is where you want to camp. That's where I always try and find it. I always do find one of these spots where it's a little bit sandier, but packed enough to not get stuck in, or one of these little spots like this. And where I'm at right now is like basically gravel, a very fine gravel. The rocks aren't very sharp, and so you find these little areas like this, and that makes a much better camping experience because you're not parked on terrible rocks for a long period of time with your tires, and you can step out of the vehicle. You're stepping onto nice gravel as opposed to stepping onto nasty rocks that are gonna poke you and hurt and potentially cause you to twist an ankle or something. Now, the other thing with this site that's particularly cool, I just moved over here the other day. It's not too far from where I was before, but it's got this massive Palo Verde tree behind me, and this is a particularly good specimen. So this is basically my afternoon shade tree, and I can sit out here and have some shade if I want in the afternoon when it's warmer. The thing down here in the desert is there's not a lot of trees, and you got some ironwoods and Palo Verdes, and but there's just not a lot. The ironwoods get a little better shade, but they still have very thin leaves. So a lot of times you'll see, I can probably show you right here, the sun filtering through here. So the sun will be filtering through the trees, and even also a lot of the smaller Palo Verdes, they don't give very much shade, not as much as you might think. These aren't maples and elms and oaks and things like you might be used to in other parts of the country. So you get limited shade from smaller Palo Verdes. And you have some ironwoods and stuff, but again, a lot of times the branches are sparse, the leaves are sparse, and you get a lot of sun comes through. So this is a pretty nice one. I have a nice shade spot here, so that's a treat. That's an aside. That doesn't have anything to do with the ground, really. Except for that I'm right by a big wash. But I'm far enough away for safety. So one other bonus for a Quartzsite with the ground here, as opposed to like up in Pahrump, for example, where a lot of people go too sometimes, the ground is not as bad up there. It's a little rocky, but it's not like it is here in Quartzsite. But the catch up there is that it's just all sloped. It's almost impossible to find a place you don't have to level. All the BLM land, it runs from the mountains down towards the valley, and it's just a very almost imperceptible slope. When you try and get parked, you're going to have to level. It's almost impossible to find a spot you don't have to. So down here in Quartzsite, it's actually pretty easy to find a spot you don't have to level. So there you go. It gives you an idea, hopefully, of a little more detail about what I was talking about. But you can find these little pads. Like I said, I think that's the big thing. You can find these little pads so you can have a better experience where you're actually camped, but you still have to walk and drive on some terrible ground if you're down in this area. So I hope that provided a little more clarity for, I know there was some confusion about that before. So thanks for joining me for this video. We'll catch you in the next one.